Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a wonderful Wednesday. This is going to be our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we're just going to get straight into it, guys. You guys know that we have a head and shoulders pattern that we think is going to play out. Many people do not think that that is the case. That's fine. However, it is very much going in our favor. And this isn't an I told you so video, because at the end of the day, that is not what these videos are about. These videos are about helping you guys navigate an extremely hard financial landscape that essentially is having huge bearing on the cryptocurrency market. So we're going to get straight into it. We're going to talk about a number of things. We're going to kick the video off by talking about the fact that we saw huge spikes in trading volume against the Great British Pound. So people taking British pounds and putting it into Bitcoin, really following Monday's spill for the pound against the dollar. People are looking for safety in Bitcoin as their currencies are devaluing. Ladies and gentlemen, potentially we are looking at currency failure, not just in your emerging markets, which we've seen it really impact, but in larger nations like Europe and Britain. You guys will know, and if you've been following this channel for months now, even though I live in the United Kingdom, I hold stablecoins. My community, my Patreon members also have been told about this for months now because of this exact reasoning. We understand what happens when the Fed do what they do. There's a poison pill that has been given to other countries in the form of debt that when they start to levy that debt up via upping interest rates, many of them will capitulate. And we're seeing crazy things take place on the bond market, the debt markets, which is really the bedrock of finance in many regards. And that has a bearing on the cryptocurrency space. So we will talk about this. There was a bit of a spike actually for Bitcoin, and then we'll get into a little bit of news about inflation, the fact that the Bank of England are having to now intervene. We're going to continue to see central banks intervene across the board. But essentially, the other day or yesterday, we really saw a spike up for Bitcoin. Bitcoin was up like 5%. Some altcoins was up 14%. We were watching Uniswap and looking for the shorts. We shorted this to the downside, by the way, rather accurately. But essentially, we saw a huge spike up. And it was kind of, you know, we were saying, look, this is kind of expected. We're consolidating at this sort of neckline. We have this head and shoulders target that we've shown you time and time again. And we were calling for a double peak. Still, this may not actually be that double peak. And just quickly, whilst I've mentioned it, when I'm talking about a double peak, the reason we were maybe calling for a double peak was if this is your neckline, basically where you are at the moment, where the price at the moment, this is your left shoulder, this is your head, and this is your right shoulder. Now, because there was a double peak on this one, and you actually held here rather convincingly whilst other markets were in sort of chaos, we did say, look, there's an opportunity. Potentially, we've had that double peak in the form, and that was technical before we even knew about people throwing pounds into Bitcoin. So people that say technical analysis doesn't work have never used it and clearly don't understand it. Technical analysis will show you what's going to go on or what the news will be before the news arises. You can often sort of front run the news via technicals because you'll see it in the price before you hear about it in the papers or through your news outlets. So we saw a huge spike here for Bitcoin. This took place yesterday. It was kind of strange, but also made sense. You know, traders would have definitely took that risk to rewards to the upside. And this was to do with volumes against GBP were around about $900 million worth yesterday. And this is compared to an average of 70 million for the US. So this is as people look to flee the Great British Pound. Remember, the Great British Pound, and this is why we've been in stable coins, and we'll pull up a chart here, since the start of the year, I think has lost nearly 30% of its value against the dollar. So I want everybody to be smart investors. You have to be, today we're around about 30% down against the dollar. So that the dollar has gained 30% against the Great British Pound. So people are looking at this and they're going, oh, this is really bad. This is blamed, of course, on Liz Truss's proposals, when in actual fact, really what it comes down to is the fact that the dollar is more aggressively upping interest rates, and they have lower levels of inflation, whereas the United Kingdom and Europe have high levels of inflation but are going a lot more slow in terms of upping interest rates. So people are going to go where they're best served. It's a very simple equation or a very simple investment to make for your sort of treasury holders, for the people that are in charge of treasuries. They're going to go where they're best served, and that's the dollar right now. That's why we're seeing this flight for the dollar. So people obviously ran into Bitcoin. It's why we saw this spike, which has been very... They basically jumped out of the pan. They jumped out of the frying pan into the fire. Remember, guys, this is what we've been talking about. This gives you targets sub 15k. I am... And my money is where my mouth is here. I'm not just saying this. I am almost certain... And I could be totally wrong. Certainty doesn't mean anything in regards to markets, because you don't ultimately know what they're going to do next. You can take your best guess based on probabilities and position accordingly, but you could be wrong. But I have been relatively right so far, really, from 44k all the way down. And I do think we are now embarking on that next leg lower that is going to take us sub 14k. Things have been very strange, and there's just simply too much going on elsewhere to expect Bitcoin to now go into some sort of a raging bull market. It is actually sickening, the other content that I'm seeing and have been seeing during this bear market on YouTube, because it's just dishonest. And the reason that it's dishonest is because essentially these individuals need you to watch their channel as it's their only source of income. I'm not reliant on views on YouTube to make me money at the end of the day. So I can say what I truly believe, whereas these other individuals have to fill you a narrative. And quite frankly, some of the largest channels out there have made absolutely scandalous calls so far, certainly with the Luna fiasco. But I'm getting off topic here. Let's focus on what we're talking about. So we're now at this neckline. For me, it's a matter of time before this fails. You can never rule out a double bottom situation, so I will, of course, give you the bullish scenario here as well, that this may be some sort of double bottom. But it's very much more likely, in my opinion, and we called for this second peak over here, that, you know, potentially this was the second peak. And it's very telling, in my opinion, when you made this move up, which shows real signs of strength, well, you had even more strength to the downside. So who's in control of this market? This is still very much an intact downtrend that people are betting against, and I've learnt this the hard way as a trader. Do not bet against trades. Why we said we will not take a long right now. Yes, we might have missed out on this, but we caught this, and that had a lot more strength to it. And we're not taking on that risk of betting against the trend. So we saw huge flights for GBP. You know, the problem with that is you've essentially gone from one burning ship onto another. And we do still see lower prices for Bitcoin, so you're going to probably lose a little bit more value. It's a hard, in this kind of environment, it's really about wealth preservation. It's why we've been sat in stable coins for so long, and it's why we've been sat in dollar stable coins for so long, is because we understand that the dollar has every reason to continue to go higher. So how is today looking before we get into a little bit of the news, because I'm kind of rambling on now? Well, the futures market is looking pretty terrible. The US 100 CFD is down 1.3%. The Nasdaq 100 E-minis is down 1.1%. The S&P is down 0.6%. The FTSE is getting absolutely killed. Gold is also down. And the dollar is actually seeing strength. The dollar is surprising me with its strength. We did actually call for a little bit of a break here. Doesn't look like we're potentially going to get that. And you will get resistance at some point. And we are potentially looking for maybe a double top situation that takes you to around about 120 for the dollar. We, by the way, only called for sort of 110, 111. In fact, we only called for 1.8 well before we were at above 100. So we've been relatively right on that. But we haven't been this high since 2001. And people are betting on the bottom for Bitcoin. And those people have been absolutely brutally wrong, by the way. And you've essentially given up a lot of your money. And that's if you bought when we made this bottom here at 18k. We actually put in a new weekly close and a new daily close. And yesterday, there was a little bit of hope, actually. I've got to admit this. There was a little bit of hope when I was looking at this candle on the monthly, because I do Japanese candlestick analysis. I find it's very useful. And you actually had a doji. I'll see if I can find it on my Twitter. Please go and follow me on Twitter, by the way, guys, at ALLIN at real ALLIN crypto, sorry. You'll get a lot more time with that. We actually had a doji forming yesterday, and I said, look, it's better that Bitcoin doesn't rally here and stays where it's at, because if you had this doji, that really shows indecision. And dojis kind of mean that, you know, a trend can be, and this is a downtrend, potentially on a monthly time, on the larger time frame, viable for some sort of a directional change. But we've now kind of preceded that with a green this is no longer doji in my opinion. It's looking more like a spinning top, which potentially means there's more downside at play. There was something else I posted on my Twitter. Again, we love looking at liquidity. We believe that markets and investing is a liquidity-based game. So you need to understand the liquidity, the flow of liquidity, where it's going, and then the rest kind of falls into line. And this is the S&P actual and fair value. Latest move in the US corporate yields, EGB, 9.64% gives a sub 3,000 fair value on the SPY. So the SPY, and we've called for lower prices on the SPY, the S&P. We've called for sub 3,000. We called this up here. Videos are all still up there. It's looking like you're going to get that. You know, why was it that the stock market had the worst 2 weeks since 2020? The Dow had the worst day of the year, and Bitcoin did fine. Was it just stalling when we were seeing everything else sort of capitulate? Potentially. And now we're seeing that dollar continue to beat its chest and be strong. It throws a spanner in the works. I mean, look at this, guys. Come on. And you're betting on the bottoms in for Bitcoin? Please. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I really don't know. I just believe that, you know, we are going lower and that this is a head and shoulders pattern that we're yet to play out, and that we are going to see that continuation to the downside. And we did actually draw well before this rally and then dump it even ensued some sort of a shoulder. Potentially you do still find strength here, and we do get that, you know, a bit more of a pronounced second shoulder, but I wouldn't bet on it. And that's what really the main message to take away with you today, guys, is don't, you know, I wouldn't long in a bear market. You know, I'm looking for shorts. That's really all I'm looking for and all I'm interested in this kind of an environment. Inflation is here to stay. Despite rising interest rates, Asian business leaders warn. So it's not just in Asia or the region of Asia. It's in the UK. We're going to have, in my opinion, stubbornly high inflation and high interest rates. So we're going to be getting spanked from two angles. Now, that is bad. That is recessionary. That is liquidity destroying. That is demand destroying. How that filters into markets. When everybody's broke, when everybody needs to make payments, don't in cash, don't be in the asset that they're going to sell to get that cash to make those payments. Black and white for me, this, guys. Bank of England intervenes in bond market after a massive sell-off. This is something that we said, and this is why, looking at the start of the year, we were going, oh, when we saw the yield curve inversion, we were kind of going, okay, we were really, and I'm still unbelievably bullish on the crypto space. I just think that, you know, in the short term, and we're only talking short term here, end of the year, maybe a little bit into next year, depending on how bad things get, you know, we still see that more downside. But it will turn around, and we're unbelievably bullish on the crypto space. We're going to do a video and hopefully maybe spawn from that some debates with some of the community on this concept of decentralization. Is decentralization fundamental to a blockchain? Let me know in the comments if you think it is, and I'm not going to give you my answer, but we will dabble within that. But when you've got this sort of unprecedented insanity taking place, this is the Fed funds. What's this? This is the US yields. So this means bonds are going down, yields are going up. Look at this. It's insanity. Let's get this on a monthly chart for you. Everything's fine, guys. That is not fine. This has been in a 40-year downtrend that ended with March 2020. Expect turbulence, and is really now the time to be investing? I don't believe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe, you know, Warren Buffett's old saying, buy when everyone's fearful. And this is the thing. People actually think that everyone's sold. They haven't. Go and ask your mate at the pub or at the gym, or, you know, that works your hairdresser or whatever, your barber. Ask them if they sold their crypto. They still hold it, because they haven't had to sell yet. And this is why I think actually we end up in a kind of bleeding out period when things start to get tough and everything starts to ramp up. I still think that's to happen. Now, I'm not calling for 3K, I'm not calling for 6K, I'm not calling for 12K necessarily, maybe 12K. I'm just calling for, I think we at least get to 15. When we're at 15, we'll assess the situation. We're not eternally bearish. We're bullish on crypto long term. We just understand the environment that we're in. And of course, you know, this is not good. We've got the stock market making huge moves sub-market. We're already sort of smally positioned short. We didn't take huge positions because it's quite a skittish market. But we will most definitely look to short, you know, when the opportunity presents itself. That's all I've got for you in this video, guys. Hopefully this hasn't been too depressing. It's not supposed to be depressing. It's supposed to be honest. It's supposed to be me giving you a view that hopefully you guys are now gaining some respect for on a daily basis, keeping you up to date with exactly what's going on, why things are happening, because there's reasons for everything technically and actually fundamentally, but often the technicals will lead the fundamentals. All I've got for you in this video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, like is always appreciated. So is a comment, and look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching, ladies and gents.